There are a lot of RPGs out there. A lot of RPGs. And finding one worth your time in this era of Steam, downloadable games, and emulators, and ROMs can seem fruitless at times. And while I personally find them as one of my favorite types of games to play, I can understand how others could be turned off by them. It can take up to 60, 80, even over 100 hours to complete one of these games. It can seem to be repetitive, or there's too much talking, not enough killing. But if you're somebody who's interested in strategic battles that you can use your brain to win, if you're somebody that wants a story to breathe life into a compelling world, if you're somebody who wants deep, multi-layered cake characters where every bite of them is a new amazing flavor, bad metaphor, then look no further than the niche series simply known as Tales of. In this era where most RPGs are turn-based or have some type of active time battle system, these games came in and brought in something new that was a hybrid of classic RPG elements with some decisive timing and reactions from the fighting game genre. Where you would get villains that are pure evil and just want to kill for the sake of killing, Tales games can give antagonists with a very grey moral code, where actions and ideas started as justifiable in some cases, but at some point they went too far. Or maybe you're the one who should be stopped. For a bit of background on the development of the series, after the first game in the franchise came out, Tales of Phantasia, two teams eventually formed to produce in-house Tales games. Team Symphonia is the group of people who worked on Tales of Symphonia, Abyss, and Vesperia, who after that merged with Team Destiny, who worked on Tales of Eternia, Destiny 1, and Destiny 2, and the two of them merged together to make Namco Tales Studio. Every single one of these games have something interesting to say, but I believe that those three Team Symphonia games have met the standards of those games past and gone above and beyond them. Now, when you think of an anti-hero in the works of video games, what do you imagine? Some brooding, scar-ridden character wearing a leather jacket, ready to take back what's rightfully theirs at any cost? A cigar-wielding, gun-smoking vigilante who doesn't play by the rules? Or maybe a long-haired pretty boy that has a plunging v-neck and studded boots? Meet Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia. He's such a fresh and unique protagonist from all the wide-eyed, adventurous youth exploring the world and growing from it. Yuri isn't one of those. He already went through that character development shit and it sucked. As an orphan growing up in the slums, he worked with other unfortunate people to survive. One of those people happened to be his best pal and buddy, Flynn Sifo. They both had a strong moral code and wanted to help people like themselves. So, when they were old enough, they both joined the Imperial Knights with the goal of changing the organization from within. After a couple of missions and a movie,
I guess being a jerk's the one thing you're good at!
Yuri learned that the only thing the Knights, and by extension the government, care about is money and power, prioritizing the rich people and leave the rest by the wayside. Yuri said, "Screw that, I quit," and starts the game putzing around the slums of the city, while Flynn stayed with the Knights and tried to work his way to the top. Some of the greatest moments from this game comes from the party's interaction. Like I said, Yuri's pretty much done growing as a character. He has his morals and ideals set in stone, so it's the rest of the party that gains the most from exploring the world. All these characters have nowhere they belong. Nobody wants them around and they're all weirdos. Carol's a 12-year-old brat that's been kicked out of every guild imaginable for being such a coward. Rita's some narcissistic genius prodigy who can't let anybody in, and her talent is too great for her own good. And Estelle, I don't know, rather be running around the forest getting attacked by giant dogs than be involved in politics. But when you think about it, is not wanting to fight monsters 10 times your size as a 12-year-old orphan a reasonable thing? Is trying to do the best you can do wrong? Should you do what you want to do instead of fulfilling your sacred duty? This whole cast has some role or label tacked onto them by society or powerful figures. It's up to them alone to either change it or accept it. All of these characters join up and grow together as some Frankenstein family. It's great to see them interact and grow as the story goes on.
The laws have always been the tools of whoever happens to hold all the chips.
Just saying that doesn't make it right for individuals to judge right from wrong, or for you to operate your own private court of law.
They're out there, you know. People so bad they'll just go on hurting others. What can the average person do but be victimized by people like that? You know it was the same way with our people in the lower quarter.
Even so, Yuri, what you're doing isn't right. Do you intend to rain your justice down on all the villains of the world? That's the behavior of a common criminal.
I recognize it for what it is, and I've made my choices.
How would you pass judgment on those the law can't touch? That's something Yuri finds out through his adventures. And it's not a fun, heroic life. It sucks. The story is constantly reminding you about how this world's government functions. With the rules and laws already being set in stone, Yuri's Frankenstein family have their own goals and rules they have to work for. They're constantly clashing with knights, the guilds, and even Flynn. Yuri has a tenacity to do the right thing, even if it means he's branded a criminal or never gets recognition. In the first act of the game, it shows that only the rich and powerful deserve to rule. Most antagonists are powerful figures that live in this cruel society. That forces Yuri to make judgments on them with his own hands. The second act boils down to the longest chase scene ever, spanning 5 dungeons just trying to catch up to one cheeky mother clucker. I'd recommend this game on the second act alone with that act's final boss. He's such a dastard. I love him and would love to talk about how great he works in with the game if I ever get a chance later on. The third act to me is the weakest. There's no real antagonist, just the gang going around trying to resolve everything that happens from the last act. But it's still a fun ride nonetheless, with the combat and the boss battles being entertaining as always. Battles in this game is the craziest it's ever been, in the best way possible. For those of you that don't know, Tales games have your party running around a battlefield, attacking, defending, and dodging in real time. You have your basic attack, and then you have special physical and magical attacks called arts. These arts can be changed with other arts in certain orders depending on the strength of that art. You can control one party member at a time and set up rules for your AI party members to follow. On top of that, you can even have your friends come over and join you in combat to do sweet assist combos and bail you out in tough situations. Every character has a different playstyle and arts to select, giving you a bunch of strategies to approach each battle. For example, Yuri has a very flashy single target combo style with not a bunch of range, but Carol has a slow, wide-reaching attacks that he can even charge up for greater effect. Going into the nitty-gritty of combat, every weapon has multiple skills that's assigned to it that your character can learn that affects battle. Stuff like upping your attack by 10% to being able to defend against magical attacks better to adding extensions to some of your arts. You only have a certain amount of skill points to activate these abilities, but if you don't like the way your character is set up, you can always try a different arrangement. A good amount of these skills are exclusive to each character, making them even more unique in their playstyle. On top of that, the overlimit system plays the biggest factor in battle it's ever been. Overlimit is a mechanic that started in Tales of Symphonia, and it's like a temporary super mode for your character. It allows them to not flinch from attacks, and lets them activate their most powerful over-the-top anime arts. In Vesperia, you have 4 different levels of overlimit that you acquire as you go through your journey. Each level adds more and more features to the overlimit system. By the time you get to level 4, you can't take any damage, you can chain any art into any art, even repeating the same one over and over again. The arts don't cost any TP, and you can use special arts called burst arts that change depending on the level and what skills you have equipped, including a bunch of other bonuses. Overlimit is an awesome mechanic that makes you feel like a total badass once you get the hang of it. It allows you to completely change the flow of battle and deal massive amounts of damage. You can even get multiple characters into Overlimit if you manage the resource correctly. With all of that, this is the most extensive the combat system has ever really gotten, and it's one of my favorites. The skill system actually prefers some characters over others, notably Yuri, who at the end of the game can become a one-man army.
Let's finish this! Oh, brilliant blade of coldest steel! Rend the infinite darkness! And crush my enemies to nothing! Savage Wolf Fury! Impossible!
I don't know, that's about it. Oh, what's that? You want to hear about the release and the numbers and nerd stuff? Okay. Tales of Vesperia was released in the US on August 28, 2008, with great reviews. It being an Xbox exclusive actually helped to bump up the sales in Japan for the Xbox 360. It even outsold the PS3 for a few weeks, which is actually a really big deal because Japan doesn't like the Xbox line. It was the only Xbox game that was in the top games of 2008 in Famitsu Gaming Magazine. And in Japan, it is the second best-selling Xbox game of all time. The total units sold worldwide is about 750,000 units. But it didn't end there. A year later, the game was ported to the PS3, with new arts, Flynn as a fully playable character, and a brand new character that was hinted at in the 360 version. An amnesiac gun-wielding pirate named Patty. Also added new endgame bosses and bonus dungeons, and even more bonus fights. And more voice acting, apparently doubling the script of the original game. The game is a bit more on the rare side, but if you check on Amazon, you can grab it less for $20 for the Xbox version, and it's only $15 to download it on the Xbox Marketplace. If you're a die-hard fan like me and you want the PS3 version, there's an actual fan patch for the older firmware PS3s that changed the text to English. Vesperia is an amazingly fresh game with so many interesting ideas, and I love every bit of it. Sadly, this would be the last game Team Symphonia worked on before getting merged with Team Destiny into Namco Tales Studios, where their games got a significant drop in quality and got weird in some places. But that's a tale for another day. Thanks so much for watching, listening, and I'll see you next time!